Okay, so I'm doing chapter 2, ethics in the police. So the study of ethics. In many cases of police brutality and corruption, and the three roles of ethics in policing are styles of policing, the police as an institution, and the police culture. So the police officers are for to control the crime, and their role is to obtain the security for the citizens, making sure they're following the rules. They're not speeding, they're not making crimes, or they're not like being they're not putting the citizen in danger. And when policing came to the United States, when they first started, the officers weren't that trained. They didn't have like a good training, so there was some problems because they would not know how much of force they had to use. It always depends on their situation they are in, because sometimes when the criminals are like they're like they put the police officers in danger, they use more force. And people that are not like dangerous, they don't have to use the same amount of force, so they have to use less force. And they had a little bit of training too, so it's not like today that they are more trained and they know more. They would also use for confessions. Oh yeah, so when they get a criminal and they want them to confess, so they would use more force so they can confess and do and say what they did, right? And yeah, so when a criminal is dangerous, and for example the criminal made a crime, they have to be hard and force them to confess, to say what they did. Like, I remember a case when a father killed her wife. And okay, so in that case the police officers went to interview the 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 father that did the crime. And what was so suspicious, I remember, it was because the father didn't cry, wasn't like really upset of not finding her wife and two daughters. So they disappeared, and he was sending a message I remember it was a TV, yeah, to the TV or in Facebook, so people can help them to search her wife and her daughters. But police officers were so suspicious of him because he didn't cry, but he would say that she went on a trip and then they were having some problems. So that's where he was like trying to not make him guilty, right, that he did it. But like they confessed, they were getting he was suspicious, but they couldn't like 100% accurate know that he did the crime. But he was the first person that they were like suspicious about. But they didn't use force at first, but I mean in other cases they would have to use more force. And then if the person has like a gun or something, then they have to like fight, or like tell them to like back up. And then if not, they will shoot, because there was an example in the book that a police officer were called, and there was a a teenager that went running passed by, but the teenager didn't stop. So the police officers told him to like stop, but he didn't stop, and then he went over a fence. I don't know, he was like scared or something. And then the police officer said to stop, or otherwise he will shoot, and then he shoot. So yeah, because the reason the police officer shoot is because they thought he was involved in the crime. So that's why they shoot, because he was getting away instead of staying, and like they can like investigate if he was like. Okay, so back in to the Watts case, the one that the father killed the wife and the two daughters. So I just searched it up because I forgot. So he did confess, but it was like so hard for him to confess. Like he confessed, it took time like for him to confess. He didn't confess like right away. So what the police officers do, I mean detectives, or when they're like they want to know about a case, so they always like ask over and over so they can know the truth. So the criminal gets really impatient, gets like really nervous, and finally confesses. So he confessed first that he killed his wife, and then later on he confessed that he killed her two daughters, and then he was sentenced to death penalty. Yeah, so he was a first degree murdered. So that was a really like famous case that he did. So yeah, like their confessions, it's important because they are eventually gonna say what they did after like being pressured. Not It's not necessarily like physical, but like with asking and asking. So yeah, that's the like it says here verbalization. Yeah, so and like they have techniques like to the police officers know techniques like what to do and all that. They're trained, and they're guide too with their other like their bosses. And what else? Oh, so the ethical background. No, that's chapter 4. Okay. So yeah, and in chapter 2, they also talk about like the police ethics. Like in some cases, like I'm telling you, they were not like trained a lot like today. So there was a lot of like complaints about how they use the force. Okay, so it says here over 4.6 compliance of assault per 100 officers compared to the US rate of 6.6 compliance per officers of large municipal police departments in the United States had internal affairs or similar unit with full-time personnel. And 33% of such departments maintain an operational computer-based early intervention for responding to officers' conduct, and there was 2,000 uses of excessive force that sustained citizens' compliance in the United States in 2002. Actions that police can draw on in handling street situations. So yeah, there like we can see like there was a lot of complaints from officers where officers were sued by the the victims that sometimes the police officers were accused to use more use in I mean use a lot of force when they were like arresting, or like they sometimes arrest people when they were not that dangerous, where they can like just give them a ticket, or what's it called, the sanction, or like not like take them to like jail or something. And yeah, so and another thing is that when they use a gun, some police officers killed too, like a lot of, let me see, people. Yeah, the police are victims. So like sometimes there are victims because they misunderstand them, and then like police officers have to defend themselves because they are risking their lives too. So like you never know, you don't, like that teenager didn't answered, didn't stop, instead of keep running, so he had to shoot. There was no other way. And also because commentators can be negative, defensive, and isolation. So I think that police officers are also like um uh they can be like so police officers are affected like physical and also what's it called, mental, right? Because they sometimes have to like have hear these comments, and like if that police officer killed the teenager, he's gonna have that like he's gonna have that in him, right? So that's the negative things of like you had to do it. Like he couldn't like save, like sometimes police officers save people, but sometimes for security reasons they have to sacrifice people. Like the teenager could have stopped, but he didn't stop. So the police mission is servicing customers, crime fighting. So they crime fight, but not in all the cases. Like not in all the people that disappeared. They don't find them. Like some find them, and some find their dead bodies. And yeah, they are chosen. Yes. So yeah, you have to be like really um good. You have to follow the rules, follow procedures, and also be like tough, like because you can't be crying when you're like in your role of police officer, and you can't like be sad. You can't be like, you can't follow your your instincts, like, oh, like be nice to people. You have to be tough. You have to like follow rules. You have to do everything right, because if not, you risk your life, and you risk the lives of other people too. So that's important of a police officer. Like there's a lot of information in detail that we don't know about police officer and what they have to face. But in this chapter is most of what I went over in like summarize and take notes. So